Hi everyone, I'm Anthony DeMoro, and this is another episode of Ranters Insider, courtesy of SportsRants.com, which means you are tuned in to Sports Rants TV. Well, we have a plethora of things to talk about this week, from the NBA playoffs to the NHL playoffs, and I'll even be answering your Twitter questions via our fan mail segment. Remember, folks, come on over to SportsRants.com, the social networking community for sports fans and geared to sports talk. Memberships are 100% free. Connect with other sports fans, share your sports-related content, and also, if you're in the market to do so, you can start your own sports blog. And remember, people, we are different from other websites. We are not looking for contributors. So if you blog on SportsRants.com, you're not blogging for us. Instead, we like to promote individual voices, and we like to think of ourselves as a host for sports blogs. So come on over, start your very own sports blog, get maximum exposure, or if you even have your own sports blog, feel free to come on over, create a fan profile, and share your content. All right, first things first, let's start off with the NBA playoffs. And one series that is really getting a ton of interest and a ton of buzz, and this is the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls. Chicago Bulls stole game one. I think they took game one with force, and I thought the Bulls would be a tough matchup for the Heat. Remember, they were the ones that halted the Miami Heat's historic 27-game winning streak and basically stopped them from doing something even more historic in the NBA record books. And the Heat also, with their captain and their MVP, LeBron James, kind of were caught off guard because this is a bad matchup for them. The Bulls are physical, play as a team, and also have a ton of heart. So I like the Bulls in this series. And maybe I'm just being a little bit too excited for Game 1's results. We've yet to see Game 2. But I will say this, I like how the Bulls play. I love the team. I love the heart. And you got to have a hard time if you're not a Heat fan not cheering for the Bulls. Great story there. And there's a debate in Chicago and all over the sports world about what to do with Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose has been medically cleared by doctors for over 2 months, yet has not returned to the court. Well, if the Bulls have a real chance in this series against the Heat, I think the onus is on Derrick Rose to return. Now, there's varying opinions on both sides of the argument whether or not Derrick Rose should return or whether he should sit out. But I think if someone's 100% ready to go, they should be on the court for their team. I would feel differently if the Heat were up 2-0 in this series or 3-0. I don't think it's worth the risk. But if the Bulls prove to have a real shot at winning this series, which I think they did in Game 1, especially since they did that performance in Miami, I think Derrick Rose needs to get off his ass and get on the court. But there's also the flip side. What if Derrick Rose goes out and he's truly not 100% and he re-injures himself? Well, then we're in for another year of no Derrick Rose. So this will hurt Chicago's long-term plans. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I think the safest thing to do for Derrick Rose is get on the floor for maybe a minute or two, run up and down, run a few plays, and then come out. And if you decide at that point you're not comfortable pushing it any further, I think a lot of the pressure and a lot of your critics will get off your back because you gave it a go and at least showed that you care enough to try it. Derrick Rose is wired differently, folks. It doesn't mean he's weak. It doesn't mean he doesn't love his team or want to win. He's just wired differently. So I think a lot of social anxiety plays into this. A lot of self-doubt plays into this. But at the end of the day, if the Bulls have a real shot, the fire needs to be lit under Derrick Rose's ass to get back on the court, rally the troops, and win this series. series, particularly if the Bulls win this series and are in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think Derrick Rose needs to answer the bell. All right, let's move on to some other series going on. And Steph Curry certainly has been making a name for himself all playoff season, right? I mean, the shocking upset in Denver in round 1, and now they're playing the San Antonio Spurs, who seem to have a nice game plan for guarding against Steph Curry's emphatic and manic offense that has been uber efficient and super productive since the playoff season has tipped off and parlayed over from the regular season. It'll be interesting to see how this series plays out, but in all honesty, I'm pulling for Golden State, and I think they are definitely a sleeper team to watch in this entire remaining playoff grid. I think you have to keep your eyes on Golden State because of Steph Curry and the type of variable he brings to the table. I don't like the San Antonio Spurs, and basically that's because I'm a Suns fan. But I don't like San Antonio for the basic reason as I think they get the calls in the NBA. Manu Ginobili for years has basically lowered his shoulder and rammed into defenders and gotten away with it time and time again. So I have no interest in seeing the San Antonio Spurs in the finals or advancing past Golden State in this round. But it's definitely a series to watch. Another series that is going to be interesting to watch is between the Oklahoma City Thunder, led by Kevin Durant, facing off against the Memphis Grizzlies. And this series is getting more and more interesting game by game, and Memphis is an old school style basketball team that is going to give fits to a lot of teams in the playoffs because of the way they play the game. I really like the inside-out game they have. I love the defensive intensity they have, and I love their production in the paint. But does Memphis have enough to combat the high-octane scoring machine that is Kevin Durant? Well, Oklahoma City Thunder certainly got dealt a blow with the loss of Russell Westbrook. So I think this series is critical. How are they in answering the questions of how they will respond to the injury and loss of Russell Westbrook? But at the end of the day, this is going to be one heck of a playoff series that is going to be tooth and nail all the way through. All right, let's move on to the Eastern Conference and talk about the other series happening, and that's between the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers. After Game 1, where Indiana went into Madison Square Garden and took that game from the Knicks and took home court advantage, the Knicks responded by, well, basically blowing out the Pacers in Game 2, led by Carmelo Anthony. Listen, New York is a hot shooting team, and hot shooting teams are streaky. When New York is on, they're putting up a bunch of points, and they are hard to beat. When they're not on, they run the risk of losing key games, especially at home, like they did in Game 1. But I like Indiana in this series. Much like Memphis, I love the way Indiana plays the game. The physicality in the paint offense, team play. I love it. So I'm going to pick the Pacers in this series to do a lot more than just stand around and let the Knicks chuck up basket after basket. And let's face it here. While I want to tip my hat to what the Knicks did in Game 1, you also have to look at all the turnovers in this game that led to the demise and the final score. So, gotta take that into consideration. It's going to be interesting to see how this series turns out. Moving on, let's go to the NHL playoffs. And instead of going series to series, I want to talk about two things here. One thing is this fan sign held up in Toronto during the Maple Leafs and Boston Bruins game series. Absolutely disgusting, classless, tasteless, and insensitive. For those of you who have missed it, a fan in the stands in Toronto, fan of the Maple Leafs, held up a sign that said, "Toronto Stronger." A clear response to Boston, the city of Boston, mind you, it isn't a sports term. Boston Stronger, or Boston Strong, I'm sorry. Boston Strong is the phrase we've been using, a hashtag we've been using on Twitter ever since the Boston Marathon bombing. I think it's completely insensitive for a fan to think that this is a play on words, a way to trash talk, or even anything humorous. There's nothing funny about it, and we as fans have to be better in demonstrating our fan support. We have to take into account that there is a line, and crossing it is never an option. We have to understand that at the end of the game, and at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And this is a real tragedy that is far beyond the reaches of sport. Now, I know Boston Strong is used in a lot of hashtags when talking about sports, but it isn't because of sports that hashtag exists. It's because of tragedy. And I know Maple Leafs fans, Leafs Nation, is a lot better than this. And I know this one fan in this isolated incident isn't a reflection of that great fan base. So hopefully, this is just one incident and we never have to be subjected to it again. Now, I want to talk about one playoff failure that I'm getting really disgusted with seeing. Marc-Andre Fleury, the Pittsburgh Penguins goalie. Absolutely horrendous performance. And when is it going to be time to just put somebody else behind the net? And I think the Penguins really have to be exploring this possibility, because Fleury hasn't just done this in this playoffs, he's done this quite consistently. And last year, he was a great component to why they were ousted in the playoffs last year as well. Fleury just isn't consistent, and he just doesn't get the job done in the net, and that was evident in their most recent game. The Pittsburgh Penguins are going to have any shot at a Stanley Cup championship this year. They're going to have to put somebody else behind the net than Marc-Andre Fleury. It's just too much of a risk, and he's just not backing up anything. He's doing more of a disservice to the Pens than anything else. All right, let's move on to one of my favorite segments in this show, and it's fan mail. But before I do want to announce one thing. Everybody knows we like giving away things on my Twitter account. I love doing it, and Sports Rants loves giving away stuff, and we announced 2 contests, so let's announce them to you in case you missed them. Our first giveaway is going to be an autographed Dale Earnhardt Jr. photo. Take a look at it. NASCAR fans, you're going to want to add this to your collection. And how you do so is quite simple. Just go on over to sportsrants.com, create a free fan profile, and then tweet me using hashtag sportsrants at Anthony DeMauro to let me know that you entered. You have to do both. You can't do one without the other, otherwise you're not entered. And don't worry, existing members on sportsrants.com, you're automatically entered in each and every contest. So no worries. But we also have another giveaway going on, and this is for basketball fans and most importantly Lakers fans. I am giving away an autographed basketball by Lakers legend and Hall of Famer Earvin Magic Johnson. We'll be giving that away in the next 2 weeks. And how you can win that is quite simple as well. It's the same process. Go on over to sportsrants.com, create a free fan profile, and then tweet me at Anthony DeMauro using hashtag sportsrants. And it's an easy way to enter the contest. In Lakers Nation, you can get your hands on this incredible collectible from a legend like Magic Johnson. All right, it's that time of the show. Fan mail. Fan mail, I have definitely, the past couple of episodes, I've really liked engaging with the audience. And every Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, I ask you for your sports-related questions. You tweet them to me, and they may make the air with a shout-out. So without further ado, let's get to this week's fanfare and the questions that made the show. We're going to start off with Chrissy M. at Nurse511. She says, who will have a harder transition back to playing successfully with their team? Amari Stoudemire or Derrick Rose if he were to return? Derrick Rose, without a doubt. I think the Knicks are just as successful without Amari as they would be with him. And I think almost it would throw him off a little bit more to put Amari in that system, because Amari isn't the type of perimeter player that he once was in Phoenix or that the Knicks like to have on the court. Now, Amari does have some rebounding benefits, can play a slight bit of defense, I think, but Derrick Rose is the heartbeat in Chicago, and inserting him back in the lineup will be a little bit tougher of an integration than Amari Stoudemire. So I'm going to have to say Derrick Rose in this one. He's going to have a tougher time back. It's a more devastating injury, and he's had more time away from the game. So with that being said, I'm picking Derrick Rose. Thanks for submitting your question. All right, at Big J Hockey 21 asks me, opinion on the biasness of last night's Montreal and Ottawa officiating. Are you talking about that goal that was kicked in? Clearly kicked in? Listen, I think the outcome, although I think the officiating was crap, I agree with you. Horrible officiating. The injury of goalie Price led more to the final score than the officiating. And thankfully, because we never want officials to determine the outcome of a game, especially in the playoffs. And the NHL doesn't want this either. So with that being said, I think the injury to Price had more to do with the outcome of this game than anything else. And it's a great series. Listen, Montreal came out like a house on fire. It took Ottawa a little bit of time to get in the flow of the game. And at the end of the day, that injury to Price proved to be the difference maker. And yes, the officiating was crap. I will definitely agree with you on that. So that's my thoughts on that. Thank you for asking. And let's move on to the next question in fan mail, excuse me. The Kid Tarp asks me, will we see a healthy Robert Griffin III in 2013? If so, are the Washington Redskins Super Bowl contenders next season? I said this in an earlier episode of Ranters Insider. RG3 could be the first person to retire because of Shanahanolitis. And what is Shanahanolitis? First of all, try saying that 10 times fast. Shanahanolitis. Shanahanolitis is the basic injury due to the coaching of Mike Shanahan, who kept this guy in the game last year and led to this devastating injury. Let me tell you something. When you're parading your quarterback, the cornerstone of your franchise, out to do jumping jacks for your fan base, I really question what the heck you're doing as an organization. Do you really need to cart somebody out and do jumping jacks in front of your fan base? I get it, but why is it necessary? It really isn't. I mean, you're putting let's just say he has a setback. You're putting a ton of pressure on RG3 to be back. So I'm going to stick by my Shanahanolitis comment and say that RG3, if he can avoid falling victim to Shanahanolitis, well, I don't know if the Redskins will be Super Bowl contenders next year, but I think they'll be playoff bound, and I think they'll have a long success continuancy as long as RG3 is healthy. I think they would do better without Mike Shanahan as a coach. I'm sorry. I think he's absolutely going to get RG3, in a sports term, killed on the field. I mean, he's really going to shorten that guy's career just because he doesn't understand when to take players out of the game for the betterment of their health. So, are the Washington Redskins Super Bowl contenders with RG3? I think they're definitely in the discussion. I think they're maybe a couple more pieces away. But it's all going to come down on RG3's resistance to fall victim to Shanahanolitis. Thank you for the question. All right. Vincent Squiglia. I'm sorry, buddy. I butchered that. Would you have let Matt Harvey, I'm thinking he's talking about the Mets pitcher, pitch the 10th if he had a perfect game intact? Absolutely. Why wouldn't you want to watch this guy pitch? Listen, he's on a historic pace here in terms of his debut, and don't the Mets need it? I mean, talk about a franchise that needs somebody like this. And hopefully he doesn't go the route of their other pitching phenoms, Johan Santana. But I like Harvey. I like the stuff. I like the poise on the mound. I love the velocity where he pitches. He looks like a vet. So I would have left him in, but I'm not a manager. And I don't want to... Are the Mets going to go the route of the Washington Nationals, how they handled Steven Strasburg? I don't know. But I think if there was a perfect game intact, hey, The Mets only had one with Johan Santana. Why not let another one? I don't think there's a reason to pull him out. So my answer is no. I'd leave him in. Get that perfect game. Tyler Smith asked me, will we ever see DiMaggio's hit streak be beaten? I don't think so, and I don't think there's a player in today's game, aside from maybe Derek Jeter, that can get it done. I thought Ichiro had a really good shot at perhaps doing this with his batting average and just the way he can beat out hits with his legs. But DiMaggio's record is one of the longest standing ones in sports, and that 56-game hit streak is going to be quite hard to beat. And I know we had some glimpses in recent years with Big Papi coming close, getting in the 30-hit range, Robinson Cano getting close to that, a couple other people doing that. It just goes to show that how big and monumental that record is. So I don't think we're going to see it in our lifetime. But thank you for the question. Paige Stover asks me, why was Beverly for Houston Rockets not fined for the hit on Russell Westbrook, since he also tried it on Reggie Jackson also? Listen, it's the NBA. David Stern has zero integrity. You're asking that from a Suns fan. If we remember a couple years ago with the Suns-Spurs series, where the Suns clearly had the series in control until the suspensions of Amari Stoudemire for just walking off the bench. I don't have any faith in the NBA, and I think they have a clear vision of who they want in the finals. And if they can contribute to making that outcome a reality, they will do so. Listen, Tim Donaghy, remember him? The official who got nabbed a couple years ago for gambling and, bad betting on games and kind of swaying his officiating to kind of lend to predetermined outcomes. I think it's a bigger problem in the NBA. And one of the big things that hurts the NBA is the integrity of it. It really is. You want to talk about officiating and being poor? NBA's right up there. So I don't know. I have no clue. You never know what David Stern. There's no consistency with him. He just kind of picks and chooses, and he'll protect his star teams and his star players. So it's unfortunate. Should have warranted a suspension? Maybe. But even if it did, and it was clear evidence that it did, who knows how David Stern will react. He still wants his Spurs in the finals, or his Heat, or his Lakers, or his Celtics. There's a lot of big market teams that David Stern just wants in the finals. Something to keep in mind. But thank you for the question. All right, Douglas Hauser Jr. asks me, do you think the Warriors can beat the Spurs? Yes, but this is the San Antonio Spurs. And this is a team that gets away with a lot of garbage, I think, a lot of calls. They get a lot of calls. It's all going to be how Steph Curry responds to the type of defense San Antonio is going to throw at him. I don't think David Lee can be counted on to be a huge factor in this series due to the injury, but that being said, somebody else like Harrison Barnes needs to step up. I know he's a rookie. I know he doesn't have a lot of experience, but he's a scoring threat. And he needs to step up in this series because the onus can't just be on Steph Curry. I love it. I want to pick the Warriors in this series. But the Spurs are they're experienced. They've been there before. They run traditional basketball sets that cause a lot of problems and prove to be successful in the playoffs. I think the Warriors can do it. I'm rooting for them to do it. Don't sleep on the Spurs. And thank you for the question. All right, Game Day Chatter asks me, which rookie quarterback starts first, E.J. Manuel or Geno Smith? E.J. Manuel will start before Geno Smith, definitely. I think E.J. Manuel was drafted to take the role here. Kevin Cobb, we know what that guy can do. I don't even know if it's saying Kevin Cobb can do anything. Listen, E.J. Manuel is in a situation where he can win the starting job. His competition is Kevin Cobb. Go look him up. Look at his production. Kevin Cobb's his competition. E.J. Manuel, why not just start him? Why not just start him right off the gate? And we've seen that trend in the NFL where teams who draft rookie quarterbacks just throw them into the fire. We saw it in Miami with Ryan Tannehill. We saw it in Washington with RG3. We saw it in Indianapolis with Andrew Luck. And we saw it in Cleveland with Brandon Weeden. And Seattle as well, Russell Wilson. So I don't think the trend stops here. I think E.J. Manuel will get the start first, but also, you got to think that Geno Smith drafting right there. This guy to me just seems like a big drama queen. And so he's perfect for New York. But it's all going to be determined on Mark Sanchez. If Mark Sanchez comes out in game 1, guns a-blazing, has a good game, he holds on to his job for a little more. If not, you see Geno Smith in. But my call between the two, E.J. Manuel. And thank you for the question. And thank you everybody who participated in Fanfare. Remember, you can participate in Fanfare each and every week. I typically ask Tuesday nights leading into Wednesday mornings for your sports-related questions. If you ask me one, it could possibly make the air. Who knows? So thank you everybody who participated. For those who submitted questions, I'm sorry I couldn't get to it. Can't get to everyone. We only have a certain amount of time for fan mail. But make sure you get a question in next week, and who knows, it could make the air. Alright, that's it for this edition of Ranters Insider. Remember, folks, come on over to sportsrants.com/TV and catch other shows on Sports Rants TV. You can also come on over to sportsrants.com/radio and check out our sports talk radio station. Chock full of great shows. We have a great new feature coming up. I'm really excited. We're finally hitting home on this one, so hopefully it can be integrated very, very soon, and we can make a rather large announcement regarding our brand new feature. So come on over, and don't forget my show every Tuesday night on Sports Rants Radio, the Rantin' and Raven Show with me and Katie Mitchell. Come on over, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on sportsrants.com. And we also get very interactive on Twitter, so participate with us, tune in, we shout you out. Hey, we love being interactive with our audience. I love doing it, so don't forget to come on over, create a profile, join us, follow us on Twitter, follow me on Twitter, show me some love. I'm almost to 20,000, love to get there. And don't forget, NASCAR fans, basketball fans, Lakers fans, 2 great giveaways. Get your butts over to sportsrants.com. Do not forget to tweet me, use the hashtag SportsRants, and let me know that you entered the contest. And I'll be announcing the winner of the Magic Johnson basketball right on this show. Right on this show. I'll be announcing the winner next week. And also, I may just, do it a little early on the Rantin' and Raven show. So you have 2 chances to tune in and find out who the winner was. And for the NASCAR giveaway with the Dale Earnhardt Jr. autograph photo giveaway, it's going to be announced on Slicks and Sticks in 2 weeks. And Slicks and Sticks airs Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sports Rants Radio. Thank you for tuning in to Sports Rants TV in this edition of Ranters Insider. I hope to see you next time. Don't forget, follow me at Anthony DeMauro on Twitter. Interact with me. I love ranting sports. And I actually am a little opinionated, so just come on over, tweet me, say hello, and we definitely can rant about sports. And most of all, come on over to sportsrants.com. All right, folks, you've been tuned in to Sports Rants TV. This has been another edition of Ranters Insider. I'm Anthony DeMauro, and I'll rant with you in the future. Thanks a lot.